This afternoon, we are most fortunate to have Bob from the Netherlands as our closing speaker, and I've asked Mark to introduce him to us. Mark?
Good afternoon. My name is Mark. I'm an addict, and it's wonderful to be here and to be part of this amazing fellowship. And I'm honored, and it's a pleasure to introduce to you Bob, my sponsor. I met Bob, I believe, in 2008 for the first time on a retreat in the Ardennes. And years later, 2011, it was a suggestion of my former sponsor to ask Bob as a sponsor. I did, and until now, I'm very pleased with that. What I received from him is really, really of big importance for me. I had some bad times, very lows, and it's by his love and compassion and good suggestions that I'm still here, and therefore I will be forever grateful. And I want to share something about what happened last evening. I just told you how important he is for me. And last evening I had some turmoil in my head and emotionally, and he was the problem. Yeah, he was the problem. So when I saw him later in the evening, I went to him, and I was really angry. And what he did was what he most of the time is doing. He stayed calm, and he asked me, is it okay for you that I tell you my part of the story? And by doing that, I became aware again of reality. And that's amazing to have this in my life nowadays. So he's a man who has a lot of experience, a lot of love, and let's welcome him with a warm applause. Bob.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bob, and I'm an addict. I don't know what to do about that sound, but we'll work through it. Yeah. When Mark was just invited to come up to the podium, Jeroen next to me says, uh-oh. I like that. Those are the kind of jokes I really like, you know? Gotta have fun. By the grace of my high power, who I choose to call God, by the power of the 12 steps, and by the grace of my sponsor, men and women like you in rooms like this, I haven't found it necessary to get loaded today, and that's pretty damn awesome. It's not too long ago that I can, or not too hard. All I have to do is close my eyes, and it's right there, right then and there. I could not get through an hour. I could not get through an afternoon. You know, as I'm talking about this, a flash comes up. You know, one of the things that really pointed out I had a serious problems. I had left my stash unannounced. I had no idea. At this little stream we were hiking through the Blue Ridge Mountains in the east coast of the U.S. with a group of friends and with backpacks on. I mean, it was like days to get to site, days to get to any kind of dealer. And they had no idea I just got high. And we're on our trail, and here I am, merry-go-lucky, high. And all of a sudden, shit, my stash. And I went from high to panic level. How the hell am I going to get through the next day, the next 3 days, the next 4 days without my shit? I was completely irate. So I said, I'll be right back. And I left. I ran back to wherever I thought I might have left it. I dropped it somewhere. I was combing. I was just like a crazy guy, just like in the city, looking for butts. That's the way I was looking through the forest. I had to find it. And I found it. Oh, thank God. Now I can live again. That's when I knew, shit. Just some demographics. I have Dutch parents. I was born in Germany. Because my parents were there. We moved back to Holland, and from there, we moved back to Germany. From there, we moved to the U.S., and I was 7 when that happened. There are some life events that might point out, hey, this guy's got some issues, but this is not why I'm an addict, right? It definitely made it more interesting, more colorful. And I could actually say, maybe if you asked me about 10 years ago, why were you an addict? I'd come up like all this stuff. That's not why I'm an addict, because I'm an addict. So one of those things was understanding that there's a thrill to being a secretive little fucker like me. I like doing shit in secret. You know, I'm the kid that was looking out the window of a hotel when we moved from Germany out into the street, and there was nobody there, and I'd sit there looking for hours and hours into the night, and I just melt with this sense of I've got superpowers. I can now control things outside. That's the way I went. I had no idea how dangerous I was. I'd also go into the hotel in the middle of the night, and one of my first near-death experience was me falling into the swimming pool in the middle of the night with my clothes on and not knowing how to swim. And this story I told my mother this year. She had no idea that this actually happened. So what happened was I'm fluttering about, I can't swim, and I actually thought this is going to be the end. This is completely out of control. I'm going to die. Water's coming into me, and this is how it went. This is my perception of life. Something grabbed a hold of my hand and gave me direction to the edge of the pool. This is what happened. Something helped me there. And the rest I had to do myself. But that was given. And I was very grateful for that. I didn't tell anybody this. I snuck back to the room, changed my clothes, got into bed, and that was the end of that. So this is kind of like what my upbringing is like. I'm grateful for that shit. At the same time, I'm like, oh man, what am I doing? So we moved to Rhode Island, Cumberland, Rhode Island, on the east coast of the U.S. And one of the things I did to get through the day was walk into the woods on the other side of the street. And what happened was I would just disappear. And by myself for hours and hours, like around 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd come back out around 4 in the afternoon. And in the middle of the day, I would be doing my thing by myself. I'm going a little too quick because I wanted to start off something. Thank you so much to the committee. Thank you so much for asking me to come here. Thank you for staying here. It's beautiful weather. What the hell are you doing here? Listening to me. I have this sense of service, and I can truly feel the people who had the committee service have that same feeling. It's a kick-ass feeling. I love being a service for fellowships. Absolutely awesome. So just relish in that. Just love that feeling. At the same time, here's my warning. My sponsor, actually in the first conventions of CAS also was like a little warning card. Like, if you go to a convention, this is what you can expect. I experienced this as well. An insane sense of loneliness in the middle of all these wonderful people. Just like creep up inside me, like in my DNA, like, you're a loser, man. You don't have nothing to say. Just pop up, and it goes back down. Be aware of that. That's normal. For the ones working really hard, you're going to be going home soon. It's a lonely place at home when you're used to this. I mean, if you got my view, there's a lot of love coming here right now. I'm going to go home. I'm going to sit on my motorcycle all by myself. I get to take it with me. And somewhere in the evening, I forget that this happened. And I'm like looking around the living room like, this sucks, right? So get ready. That's going to happen. For the newcomers, there's a lot to process. There's a lot of stories that's been told. And I'm hoping that my story will actually benefit you on some level, but when you get home, that you don't get into this thing. And my suggestions are, go to a meeting tonight for the newcomer, call someone tonight, anybody, but preferably someone in recovery, and hopefully you find sponsors soon and do some work. The conventions are awesome, and Jimmy put it really nicely. The meetings are bread and butter, conventions are the dessert. But actually, I met someone in the meditation meeting today who was straight out of the clinic. So he starts with dessert. I like that. That's my style. That's the first thing I wanted to say. And the willingness to grow spiritually. I can only give away what I've got. And I want to focus on my experience. I do have some experience, and I have to tell you, I'm not going to do some kind of, confession thing here, and that is equivalent to recovery. That's not what I'm doing here right now. I processed my experience. I worked it through the 12 steps. I shared it with men and women. I've got something to give away. Then I get to say it. So if you have this idea that you get to get on stage and you confess something and that's the equivalency to recovery, that's not what I'm wanting to share. That's not the message. This is hard work. And I do believe I've got some things, and I also believe that you have some things. And one of the things that I totally believe is a golden rule in recovery is that some of this stuff that I'm still processing about myself that I happen to do, have done, and shit that has been done to me, I have a hard time accepting that, because acceptance isn't like that for me. But it is the moment that one of you, maybe even today, walks up to me and says, Bob, that is exactly what happened to me. Thank you for sharing that, and how do you stay clean with that? That's the moment my shit changes to gold. You maybe get to live through that. My shit just turned to gold by you doing that. So thank you for that, this opportunity. So now I'll be back in Rhode Island. I'm going to go quick because, there's a lot of, like I said, stuff that happened in Dutch. They call it in the zandbak, It's not the reason why I'm an addict. My first drug, my first chemical was alcohol. And I forgot this story. It was part of my recovery that it was about 4 years ago, a photo circulated through my family. My grandfather, my grandmother, and my aunt. My aunt died of alcohol poisoning. Behind the three of them was a door. And because now I'm in recovery, I saw the photo. I got this flash. I don't know if you can recognize this or relate, but all of a sudden I got this flash of a memory, just like, boom! That door was the bathroom door to my aunt's house. That is where my first drug happened. And so how did I do that? It was a family party. And this is literally how my life and addiction started. I looked around, the barbecue's going, people are getting loaded, and I thought, I'm going to go back into the shed, and I'm going to get myself a beer, and I'm going to sneak it to the bathroom. And this is all right here, and while watching the barbecue. And then I was like, now. It's like a bank robbery. And I went, grabbed the beer, and I disappeared in the bathroom, and that's where I had my first beer. My uncle would have given me more than a beer. My grandfather would have given me more than a beer. Everyone would have said, hey, man, you're a man now. What did I do? I did it in secret. It tasted better. Gave me an extra kick. I knew that. That's how calculated my addiction is. Fast forwarded to my last drug. That's exactly what happened with my last drug. No one knew I thought this was my last drug. Matter of fact, I found my sponsor. I needed to find my sponsor. My previous sponsor relapsed. And I was 4 days into it, keeping it a secret. I wasn't going to tell anybody, because keeping secrets was working for me, right? No. I was having nightmares. I was going crazy. I felt like such a hypocrite, going to meetings and not telling you that I had a drink. It was just a drink. It's not my drug of choice. I only had one. What's the big deal? No one had a problem, right? But meanwhile, this is the basis of my new relationship with my sponsor. I'm getting crazier and crazier. And the fourth day, I broke. It's like, God, Edward, I got to tell you something. I had a drink 4 days ago. And he looked at me and said, wow, I'm really, really glad you told me that. You could have died. And for a split second, there was this little, but it was like I just said, it's not my drug of choice. It was like, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. This guy is right. I could have died. I have no idea what could have happened that night. What that one drink could have happened. Absolutely right. And right then and there, that was it. My last drug. That was it. And my secret mechanism was definitely not working for me. It was making me paranoid. It was making me insane. And it was keeping me from you. Love for myself. I was 13 when I did that in the bathroom. My drinking and drugging pretty much took off when I was about 15, 16. In the U.S., you can drive a car when you're 15. You got someone next to you. The day I turned 16, my father gave me the keys and I got a job. I was like, I need money. I need to be my own man. So where did I get a job? I got a job at Central Falls, Rhode Island. It's a 1 square mile town with per capita more Colombians than in Miami. Guess what? They had more cocaine than in Miami for that 1 square mile. And this was the McDonald's right in the middle of that. One McDonald's. My parents had no idea that was where my job was. I had no idea where my job was. And my first party, I was 16, was going to the manager's house, and he was wearing this snake as a dress. And he was going in the back room and coming back out. And this is my manager. I'm looking up to this guy. And I realized, hey, there's something shady going on here. 2 weeks later, I'm in the back seat of that same manager's car, and we're going to the beach. And this is, my new life. I've got a job. I'm a man now. And these are the people I want to hang out with. So that's where it started. I'll fast forward. Somewhere in the middle of my high school life, I started realizing if I use chemicals, I like life better. That's just how it worked. And once I start using chemicals, I can make life better by acting crazier than my next guy. So that's the way I was starting to get my personification. I needed to invent myself. So I do stupid, crazy shit. Throw stuff out of cars, climb water towers. This is the kind of things I thought would be cool. Meanwhile, even in my high school, people were drinking and driving, crashing cars into telephone poles, and they'd take these cars and they put them in the front lawn of the high school. Did that wake me up? No. That was a stupid guy. He didn't realize what he was doing. It had nothing to do with the chemicals, I thought. What happened was I started to think that I could control my life, literally, by using. Like I said, when I had my stuff, I can control my life. I felt like the king of the world. If I didn't have my stuff, then we got a whole other Bob standing in front of you, completely different person. So the answer to that was make sure I got stuff all the time. That's simple, right? I made it to the university. I don't know how that happened. I thought I was going to invent myself there too. And before long, like a week, there only was about partying. It wasn't about school. It was about partying. And that lasted about 4 years. It's a 5-year program. And I got to the point where I had other things to do than school. I thought my school was getting in the way of my partying. That's literally what I thought. And unfortunately, at the time, I had no idea what the wreckage of that was. My parents were paying for this stuff. I was losing relationships around me. People weren't liking me. And I thought I was still king of the world. So what I needed to do was leave school, have more time to party, and use. I traded in a career, and I moved into my car. And I told everyone I was camping, but I was homeless. I mean, looking back, hindsight. And I had gotten to the point where if I had money, I would either buy gasoline or food or drugs. Buy gasoline so I could get to the place where I could mooch it, ask for it, beg for it, and go from one place to the other place. That's how low it became. I started with my car filled, and I started getting rid of stuff so I could take passengers. Somewhere in the middle of all that, I had this premonition. I went to Amsterdam for the summer, and thought that would be a good idea. It only got worse, of course. And I came back knowing this is not going to happen. This is not good. This is not right. And I was starting to having these conversations with God. God, help me with this. Help me out. All of a sudden, I saw a woman talking to a guy in a window of a cafe. And I fell in love. That's the other thing about me and my addict mind, my magical thinking. It's like I can fall in love 100 times a day, sometimes still. I have to be honest about that. That's the way I am. I'm a hopeless romantic. So I saw her, immediately I'm in love. Immediately. And I said to God, if you give me her, I will stop. I swear it. The very next day, I'm in a co-op for organic food. My friend is at the register, and we're talking to each other over these bins of food. And he says, Bob, you're giving us a potluck, and how fantastic. You're house sitting in that house. Great, great, great. Wouldn't it be great if you maybe took Trissa? And Trissa is around the corner. And it's like, yeah, cool. The more the merrier. Who's Trissa? And I walk around the corner, and it was her. And I was like, fuck, God was listening. This is getting real now. Stepping it up, huh? Okay. So, Trissa, you're invited to my potluck, and you're going to be my future wife. And I'm going to have to stop now. And so that's literally what I was doing with myself. I thought I could control this. I fell hopelessly in love with Trissa. We went on this car ride, and the first 2 weeks, she had a great car. I remember her car. And road trip. right? What's better to do in the U.S. than a road trip? So we're in Rhode Island, 20-hour road trip down to the Florida Keys. And what happens halfway down when Bob doesn't use, he changes. I forgot that. If I don't use, I change. And she changed too. She was this beautiful woman. She wasn't that beautiful anymore. And I was like hating life, hating her, hating her car. And by the time we got to the Florida Keys, I was a demon. I think my teeth grew. I was just so angry. But even there, life was throwing me these weird stories like, oh shit, God is really paying attention. So we found this little beach, and we're, in love. I thought, it was one of those moments where I wasn't demon, because I was shift chafing all the time. It's like floop, 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 floop. And I'm back in love, and all of a sudden these bubbles were coming out of this water. I mean, there's like we were the only ones on the whole planet right there. Nobody was there. And all of a sudden a scuba diver comes up, takes off his mask, and Trissa says, John? This is the neighbor 20-hour drive of Trissa's house. I mean, they live next to each other. This guy came up out of the water. He manifested. This is not a joke. This happened. I was like, oh, fuck, this is really serious. God is like, remember, Bob? You're going to stop, right? So I promised, and I did my best, and it wasn't very pretty. And I felt that, and we can laugh about that, but the people who here who know that, it fucking sucks. You lie to God, you're going to know. It's not like lying to your mother, lying to your grandmother, not like lying to your father, lying to the president. You lie to God? Oh, geez, yeah, man, holy shit. And this is tied into how I was brought up. My parents did not believe. They did not believe in religion. They did not. And when my tonsils were taken out, like literally taken out, that was back in the day. I was born in 1969. They brought you to the hospital, and they said, we'll pick you up in a week. That's what they did with me. And they took me, and they bring you over there and sit down and breathe into this and do that. And the next thing I woke up in this ward of kids, I'm maybe like 5 years old, one of my earlier memories, and my throat is hurting so much. And I had a dream right before that. I don't know why I had this dream, but the dream was that I was forced to breathe in to hellfire. I got a mask, and there was a tube going right into hell. I saw the people burning in hell, and I had to breathe that. That's the reason why I had this pain in my throat. And that's the kind of weird shit that was in my DNA. That stuff I was doing in the woods, I wasn't alone. You think I was alone? I had all sorts of shitty shit going on. I was like, God was there too. I had no idea. So, Trissa and I, what can I say? I'll fast forward. She, a year later, I hadn't been able to control my drinking and drugging. She said, Bob, you're going to NA. I'm going to AA. And I'm like, you're not even an alcoholic. You're doing what? Yeah, you're going to NA or we're done. Like, oh, fuck. Meanwhile, I quit the university. I'm living out of the car or at her house. And, I've got, only hippie friends and, playing in a band or throwing pottery and smoking shitloads of pot all day long. That's my life. And she says, go to NA. So I went to NA and I did one of these. You guys smoke crack? I smoke pot. I'm not an addict. And that was my first meeting. My life changed with Trissa real quick because she did find a meeting and she did go to a sponsor and she did start working a program. And my next message about the 12 steps was, Bob, I can't see you anymore. My sponsor says I have to leave you because you're not in recovery. I was like, I'm not what? I'm your love of your life, right? So right then and there, my resentment started with the 12 steps. I hated the 12 steps. Your sponsor is who? I wanted to know who that was, and I wanted to go to that person's house. That's my idea. So I plummet, knowing I lied to God, knowing I lost my love of my life. And then somewhere in the middle of the winter of that year, I came up with a brilliant plan. I'm going to quit and move to Amsterdam. Seriously. And I said this to people around me and the people who love me and the people who are my dealers, and even the craziest, sketchiest dealer said, "You're doing what, where?" That's not going to work. And even my loved ones, they just said, "Don't do that. That's not going to work." And I totally believed that was going to work. And that's the spiritual malady I understand now. My spiritual disease says that I can do stuff like this. Let's do this. So I did. I moved to the Holland, burned all my bridges. I lost my green card, lost my license. I had no idea that there were squats here and anti-squats. That was just fantastic. I mean, shit, you can live for free and spend all your money on drugs? Oh yeah, I was gonna do what here? Oh yeah, stop. Oh yeah, stop. That lasted, again, 48 hours. I become psychotic. I'm somewhere in Hilversum, in this sketchy part of town, which is great. You know, that feels perfect for me. Bunch of, whatever. Just it was just lots of spray paint. I remember that moment. And this dog comes running up, and it was our family dog running up to me. And I was like, this dog has been now dead for 10 years, and he was coming straight at me. I'm like, oh shit, this is the moment I've lost my head. And he ran up to me, and I thought he was going to jump on me, but he ran right past me. I was like, oh, did I really see that? And then way behind me, a woman screams, "Astor," which was the name of our family dog. Fuck. The hell does that mean? I had to figure that out. That's not a coincidence. So these are the things that were happening in the early moments of my so-called stopping in Holland. Fell in love because I needed that. I'm going to skip a bunch of stuff because drug addiction just fucking sucks. Let me just say that. My life was getting worse and worse and worse, and it sucked and sucked and sucked. And I knew the cloud was getting darker and darker above me. Music wasn't making music anymore. Sunny skies were even just depressing. And that's back when it was raining all the time in Holland. I don't know if you guys remember that. It rained all the time in Holland. Well, on a sunny day, it was even depressing. I met another woman. She was going to save my life. We fell in love. Wow. I'm going to do it again. Promise God, I'm going to stop. This is time for real. Except for this woman said in our first date, I'm going to go to the OA. Do you know what the OA is? And for the newcomers, OA is the same 12 steps, except they changed the step 1 a little bit. It's about food as opposed to drugs. And I'm like, fuck, OA has sponsors. It's like the time just started going in. It's like, how many weeks is it going to last now before she's going to say, oh, I need to be hanging out with people who are in recovery. So this is what happened. Again, I came up with a brilliant plan. Instead of a road trip, she was Moroccan, we're going to go to Morocco, and we're in Morocco, and I needed to take my stuff, my gear to Morocco and stop there. I'm like the only one in history that smuggled shit to Morocco. With this idea, then I don't have to deal with any dealers, right? That was very safe. Say again? Welkom, meneer. Group conscience? So, I'll fast forward. We'll get into recovery. Needless to say, that didn't last long either. We had a child, and she too said, Bob, you got to go to a meeting. That meeting was my second meeting, and there were 8 years in between. So that's something that I'm going to recommend nobody doing. Do not wait 8 years to start recovery. Do not. You might not live. And that's not a joke. My second meeting was, again, my head was so distraught. I thought the NA had lied to me. I'm going to say it NA anyway because the CA wasn't around. And the address was 46 as opposed to 64 because it's Dutch. Dutch language puts the second number first, and that's how it went in my head. So I went to the wrong address. I showed up at the right address 10 minutes late. In between that was my first recovery moment. Something in my head said, go back and change the number. I was ready to go to use again. That was a miracle, definitely. I came back, and I was part of my second meeting. From that day on, I went to meetings every day, and I started walking to meetings because my bicycle had this weird thing. You know, I would just start going different directions than where I wanted to go. That's literally how it went. I wanted to go that way, and my bike went that way. And so I put the bike down, and I started walking to meetings. And then the other thing that started happening, all the times when I started looking for free shit, I was finding free shit. I was walking to meetings, and there was all this free drugs on the ground. It was crazy. It happened many times. There was a surrender, get to the meeting. In the first week of meetings, someone handed me the key to the building. It's like, okay, I have to make coffee for this place, and I have to be on time, and I've got the key for everyone to get into. That was an insane sense of responsibility. I had no idea that that was going to happen. So obviously, I did my best. I'll go back to that sponsor now. I looked around for a sponsor, the most loving, sweet person I could find. Like I said, that loving, sweet person relapsed. So the second sponsor, I looked for the meanest badass. And that was my second sponsor. I was afraid of this guy, Edward. I had no idea I was his first sponsee. That's a joke. That's really a cosmic joke. That was hilarious. So his first assignment was to go meet him at the station and walk him to this meeting that we had in the Warmoestraat. It was a crazy-ass meeting. I mean, there was literally drug deals going outside. And you had to go through that and get into the meeting, which was then an oasis because there were these nuns. It was like outside war, inside meeting. Okay. With Edward, I started my recovery. God bless him. So with him, I had some serious experiences I wanted to share. I've noticed I'm triggered to the person that just said I have to stop my story. I just wanted to say that. Something in me that's saying I'm not doing this right. I was enjoying my flow, and it's like, I was a puppy dog. I was walking behind Edward all the time. I said that in the beginning of the meeting, beginning of the convention. Gerard was one of the sponsees, and I expressed it in the beginning of the convention. Whatever Edward said to do, I did. If he said jump, I jumped. Didn't matter. But I also had this crazy little thing going on, like I do my best for him. It was all self-will, realizing this now. I do my best for him, I thought, But then on the way back from the Schilderswijk in Den Haag, doing step work at Monica's place, I was going to the train station, and I'd go to the back of the magazine place and just look through Playboy, just to like feel normal again. I don't know if any men can realize. I did my best there, and then I really balanced it out before I got into the train. So like, okay, now I'm back. That's self-will. That's not surrendering to recovery. This went on for a couple of years, and all of a sudden, Edward said, while we were walking to the Warmoestraat, he's like, well, going towards that meeting, I'm going to move to Seattle. By the way, you now have 5 of my sponsees. I was like, he literally did a sponsee dump. Like, here you go. And I was like, oh man, this guy is keeping me clean. My life's dependent on him. I call him when I'm distraught. I don't make any major decisions. That's all the stuff I like. We're doing step work. And he just stopped, like while we were walking through the street, and said, Bob, you have to realize something. The only thing you have between you and your drug of choice is your spiritual condition. There will be no big book there. There will be no meeting there. I will not be there. You and your drug of choice looking face to face, and all of that will be gone. The only thing that's there is your spiritual condition. And that depends on what you're doing today. And then he kept walking. It's like, fuck. I was like, man up. What are you doing for your recovery? Now. So he left, and I got all these sponsees. So that was it. That was going on. So I had to do this thing, find another sponsor. He actually stayed my sponsor, but it was long distance. And what happened was I really had to give it away. I really, really had to give it away. To keep what I had to give it away. And started noticing when I had these guys on the line that I was starting to hear him through me. I wasn't inventing anything. I was just like, what would Edward say? What would Edward say? I'd say it. And then I started noticing, when was the last time I did that? Okay, let's do this. And then my recovery started going leaps and bounds. So the ones who think they don't want to sponsor, please start sponsoring. Your recovery is going to grow in leaps and bounds. You might lose some sponsees. That's happened to me too. It's not cool to say, but not all the sponsees stayed, and not all of them lived. I can really say that's sad. It's really, really, really sad. So in that, Edward came back. I did marry. We had a child. Have a child. She's now 23. Bless her. Got divorced. He helped me through that. And that divorce happened as my job changed. I started working. I was working in healthcare, and I got this brilliant invitation to go to Hazelden in Minnesota to go study there for a whole year. I was like, whoa, someone wants me there. And I really felt that was a major recovery present. Somebody saw something in me to send me to Hazelden. I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what was going to happen when I got there. It was the hardest year of my life, let me tell you that. Without my child, without my wife, without Edward, all these things they did were a long distance. But what that was full-on recovery all the time, 24/7, everywhere I went. I came back, started up with this job, and my divorce started. I had to get real. I thought it was because of her and the partner the man she had found. But what it really was I too was on a slippery slope. And I had to do an inventory on that. I had to ask for forgiveness on that. I had to forgive her for that. At some point, I'm still, processing. Forgiving myself meant uncovering, oh yeah, I'm lying. I'm doing some weird shit there. At night, I'm masturbating, thinking it's a threesome with my wife while I'm in Minnesota. And in the evening, during the day, I'm freaking out because that's not what I want. That's not what I want. I don't want a threesome. I want her. Sorry, I said that. No, don't do that. Freaking out. I was so jealous, and there was an ocean between us. Powerless over all of that, except for I could work on myself. What was my behind? What was my part? Oh yeah, I'm doing some weird shit while I'm trying to go to sleep. That fantasy, it's not free. I don't get to have an orgasm and get a freebie. No, that has a direct relationship to how I'm relating to myself and my shame and all that same day. That is my spiritual condition. So I had to check that. The same went on when I started doing 4 steps, and this the levels start going. My first 4th step was 5th step, like Edward would call it, getting the biggest rocks off the field, making a wall of it, and then getting the rest of them. But I kept a couple of the big rocks out there. I didn't do the big ones right away. One of them was that I had a lot of resentment towards an uncle of mine. Somewhere while I was living in the anti-squats, I was also knocking on his door in Amsterdam, and I needed a place to stay. I was loaded, he was loaded, and we ended up in bed. I blamed him for that. At some point, I had to own the fact that, yes, what happened that night reminded me, hey, this is not my first time. Something in my DNA said, hey, panicked, I was frozen. But I was the one who got into bed. So I had to own that. I'm not responsible what happened before, which I don't remember, but I had to own the fact that I did something to get myself in that situation. And it wasn't what I would consider rape. It was some kind of weirdness. Yeah, he has a responsibility, but it wasn't the story I was making it out to be and going on with using because of that. I had to drop that rock. I can't blame him for what I was doing. So this is part of my recovery. This is one of the things I get to share as my experience. Hopefully someone has some kind of idea, hey, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. Not too many men come out with their survivor story. This is mine. Edward passed on. Me and a bunch of sponsees, Monica, everybody was very, 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 very close. And thank God for Jimmy for stepping up right next to that. Like, I needed a sponsor. And I was there. And I knew the things that were on Edward's plate. I mean, he too was a true addict in recovery. He had some serious stuff going on. And he was okay when he left. And I was so grateful for that. And I thank God for being a part of that. I truly feel that. I really feel that. And I feel him here today. Another big thing in life, after divorce, my present partner and I were trying to get pregnant through all sorts of science fiction. I mean, like crazy-ass science fiction. Just microseconds science fiction. And we actually got pregnant after many tries. Hold up. The story continues. Our son lived for 5 days. He was born full term. And and I watched my partner Sonia turn into this magnificent mother, brilliant queen as she was, and turned into, it was amazing. When our son Liam passed away, she's not an addict, and she could just vent the most insane sounds of grief, anger, despair. It's like, wow, holy shit. this is raw. I stepped up to that. We had an amazing period. And I just want to close off with this. I believe that being there with Edward prepared me for that. I really believe that. Because I didn't think things could get worse than what happened to Edward. But guess what? They did. The moment it was going down in the hospital, something in my DNA, my recovery DNA, said, reach out. And I started reaching out. Called people. Called Jeroen, he was there. Called Jimmy, he was there. People were there. Immediately, they were there. What I didn't know is that people were also talking about my situation in the rooms. People were betrokken, deeply involved with my well-being. What I didn't know is that one of you told the newcomer who was flipping out, trying to stay clean, to pray for me. By doing that, be able to stay clean that day. I had no idea. After coming back from the hospital, I went to my first meeting. And there I was sitting next to a bunch of people who knew my situation without me having to share. Oh, I can't express how beautiful that is. And that newcomer was in the room. And when I did share, that newcomer said, I prayed for you, and because of that, I stayed clean. When there was a CA retreat in, what month was that? April. The week before I would fly to the U.S., Terry, I don't know, some of you know who Terry is. And I don't want to talk about Terry because it's his anonymity, but for the reason that he shared it in the room, I think I can. I shared this story, and he came up to us in a group like this, a little smaller, and he said, Bob, similar things happened to me, and I could not take responsibility of our deceased child, and I was getting loaded. And I always wondered, how would I do that in recovery? Now I know. That's what Terry told me. I looked up to Terry, dearly looked up to Terry, and now the tables had turned. He looked up to me. I couldn't believe that. That changed my story into gold. So my recovery message for everyone here today, yeah, we're not saints, but I don't have a pride of that. So I think that's where my trigger was earlier with the woman that just walked out the door or something happened at the door. Like I'm proud of my shit that had happened. That's not the we're not saints message that I'm trying to get over. I'm willing to grow spiritually. That's what I'm trying to get over. I am willing to go to any length to grow spiritually. That's what I'm trying to get over. I hope you hear that. To any lengths to grow spiritually. And when I do these things, I can talk for all day. I said that. But I always look for that place that I know I don't want to go. I go there. Somewhere in the hour, I go there. And I hope that you feel that I went there. Because this is where the gold is for me. This is where the healing is for me. And on some level, it is a selfish program. Thank you for that. Thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for letting me share my story. And I want to say, please go on and share your story. But do it in concession with step work, sponsor work, process that stuff. Uncover, discover, discard. Do that, get up and share it, and you're going to meet that person. They're going to say, that is my story. How are you staying clean? Thank you very much.